Hello and welcome to Who Review in 20. We are about to sit down and review The Well, the most recent episode of Doctor Who. We have a 20-minute timer to keep us from going and blabbing too much because we have a bad habit of doing that. So I'm going to hit the timer right now. Timer has been hit, Chris.
Boom.
I'm throwing straight to you. Tell me your overall thoughts on The Well.
Yeah, I'll be fairly speedy because I had a text from you that said I'm not sure we're going to struggle for 20 minutes. So I feel like you've got more to say. But I really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as Lux,
No.
but I probably enjoyed. Maybe I enjoyed Boom more. But I think I'm really enjoying this season overall. Actually, I feel like more than so far the previous season. I really liked the atmosphere. I thought it did a great job of the tension. I thought the idea of sort of the villain, the villain being behind them was really interesting. Do I think it would have worked better if it wasn't a sequel to Midnight? Spoilers, as we've said, full spoilers all the time on this. Yeah, I don't think it needed to be a sequel to Midnight. I don't think it particularly ruined Midnight either. But we saw a little more of, even in glimpses of the sort of entity and what they were. My memory, I haven't watched Midnight in a long time, but obviously Midnight, the iconic thing people remember is them repeating the words at the same time, and there was none of that. So I just sort of I felt it didn't. Jess didn't even question, am I meant to know what this planet is? So I think, did it need to be a sequel to Midnight? Probably not. Did it benefit being a sequel to Midnight? Probably not. I think there was a lot of really effective stuff. I think, obviously, the cast were on brilliant form. Rose Ayling-Ellis was a great guest star. I thought she was brilliant. I think it got a little convoluted again towards the end, and it's really difficult because honestly, I genuinely sit there and I go, is this show being written differently, or was I just paying more attention? I wasn't on my phone or anything, but I'm like, has Doctor Who always been like this? And I'm just paying less attention, or maybe I'm not smart. I don't know. I just feel like I think about the Robot Revolution and I think about this towards the end, and I'm like, just feels a bit convoluted, and I don't know if it's me at this point. It's not as convoluted as something like Flux or a lot of Chibnall's work, but yeah, still, even the end of the last season was a bit messy and a bit like, what's going on now? And Joy to the World, I said exactly the same thing. So yeah, but I really enjoyed it. I really liked the build up. I thought the pacing was done really well. I thought the last moment was super fucking creepy and effective. Just that feeling of, oh, fuck. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really, really effective. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I in particular, I thought it played, especially Acts 1 and 2, like a really strong horror movie that could have been a movie, in fact. Not a long movie, 70, 80 minutes maybe. Yeah, I enjoyed it. What did you think, Daniel?
I think it did benefit in terms of people's impression of the episode from being a Midnight sequel, a surprise sequel to a classic episode. I have strong feelings that in years to come, people will look back at this episode and be a bit disappointed with it on rewatch, because I think a lot of people were like, I blew my mind when he said the name of the planet. I jumped out my seat. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And it's hard for me to believe that a person that enthusiastic about what happened didn't then have that impact their review of the episode and whether they enjoyed the episode. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I just don't think that is fleeting. That is cheap. That is pure, remember this thing. And will this story hold up for that person as well a year or two down the line when they've very much accepted that it's a sequel to Midnight? I'm not as convinced, but I'm not going to tell someone that they're wrong for enjoying a thing that they enjoyed. I'm glad people enjoyed it, and I'm glad the surprise worked for everyone that it worked for. I found it... I think this is my definition of an absolutely average episode of Doctor Who. I thought it mostly functioned, but didn't do anything for me. I think there's a few problems. For a start, like you, I found the monster and its behavior convoluted, and often with Doctor Who I think actually the idea when you break it down isn't convoluted, but because of the way these episodes are paced, because I don't agree with you that this episode was paced well. I think it started paced well, and I think the third act is an absolute shit show. I think,
yeah, did you notice when I repeated that comment, I very specifically labelled acts 1 and 2?
Right, okay, yeah. I thought, and I think what happens with Doctor Who sometimes is when the pacing suffers, where we lose out is in taking the time to give information to the audience that they might need to help them reinforce the ideas. So there might be one sentence that explains something, and Russell has a habit of doing that, where he'll write one sentence in that makes it make perfect sense. But if you happen to not taking that one tiny piece of information in a lot of very fast-paced dialogue going back and forth, if that doesn't register and then get reinforced at a later point, it doesn't stick. So then you find yourself confused. And this happens in his faster-paced episodes. I thought that the monster was an interesting idea, but it didn't really come to anything. And I'm reviewing this purely on what it is. We'll come to the midnight of it all in a minute. But just as an episode, I thought it was really strong performances and some really good character stuff with a pretty uninteresting villain and thing that the villain was doing that wasn't properly explored. Because the premise here of it made everyone paranoid and kill each other is interesting. But that's not what happens to the characters we're following. That's what's already happened. The interesting thing already happened. We get there, and everyone's paranoid for about 3 minutes, and the Doctor goes, nah, it's this. And they're like, oh, cool, we know now. I genuinely thought it was entertaining and enjoyable and, had some creepy moments. The ending, like you, I think it was a proper classic. A classic, the monster laid an egg, it's still out there. It's one of those sort of old school 80s horror film endings, which I loved. But the actual episode itself, I thought was the absolute definition of just down the middle Doctor Who for me. There were some interesting characters we met that some of them died, some of them survived. The Doctor got to be smart. There was a monster that was kind of interesting and maybe had an interesting idea baked into its core, but we never really got to explore that because we were just moving. I think the threat of being flung into the air isn't exactly the most scary thing I've ever seen in my life, and that's before we even get to the midnight of it all. And if I'm gonna separate my review from the episode from midnight, this stuff is a separate element. But this felt like a last minute change to the script for the sake of a surprise, and I don't mind in theory.
It did definitely,
and I don't mind in theory the creature behaving differently to the original entity from Midnight. But I do mind we stick to the themes, the theme of language. We even had a setup for it. We had the deaf character and live subtitles at play, but we never did anything with it. When the creature used language the last time to get in people's heads and breed that paranoia, what were we doing here? We have a character that's deaf and we have this subtitle thing. Use that for something. It's just there. It was just set dressing. It was pointless. It didn't do anything. And we only hinted, obviously, at the paranoia stuff having happened for all of the previous victims. And then, as I said, that tension is lost almost immediately here because we very quickly prove the Doctor right. And then everyone's just getting flung into the air, which is just, I'm sorry, but there is just something deeply inherently less scary about a creature that flings you through the air compared to a creature getting in your head and using your own thoughts and fears to make you kill each other. One is a lot better of an idea. I'll let you figure out which, but I think it's pretty clear. Also,
and just to jump on that, why I felt as well that I completely agree. It felt like a last minute change, and actually why I'm not sure it works as a sequel. I knew going in this was a surprise sequel to Midnight. I had that. I knew that ahead of time, and I was expecting to finish the episode and be excited to show Jess Midnight because I'm not sure whether she's seen it or not.
Right.
And I didn't do that because I thought I don't want to watch Midnight now because I think I'm going to be more retroactively annoyed at that episode because it's going to feel even less like a sequel to Midnight and it's just going to feel irrelevant, and therefore I'm not going to go back and watch Midnight, which if the sequel to something doesn't inspire you to watch the first one, especially when the first one is as brilliant as Midnight, I think that says a lot about the quality of it as a sequel.
Yeah. And I think as well, Midnight really liked to play on the idea of the Doctor's habit of taking charge of a situation and how that backfired on him, because the reason they all become suspicious of the Doctor in the original Midnight is because of that. And this episode starts with that. The Doctor takes charge. That guy is questioning him, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's like it's aping elements of Midnight without really ever understanding what made Midnight good. And that's weird, because this is partially written by the guy that wrote Midnight. Now, admittedly, it was there were 2 writers on this script. My suspicion is that the original script did not involve any Midnight stuff, and it was handed in, and it was a script about a monster that, you know, sort of was just behind you, just out of sight at all times, and if you positioned yourself in where you could see it, it killed you somehow with its entity powers. And then Russell was doing his usual rewrite, because obviously as the showrunner, he does do a lot of rewriting, even back in the day, even when episodes that he wasn't credited on. Like James Moran wrote Fires of Pompeii, but James Moran talked about, and Russell has actually talked about as well, Russell wrote on that script. He just never got credited for it. These days he gets credit for it when he does it, but he does it on most scripts. You know, it feels very clear to me, and I could be wrong, and look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it feels to me like it was written by that writer, whose name I'll pull up in a second. I don't have it in front of me, and I should have. It feels like she wrote the script, and then Russell came in and made it a Midnight sequel. And I feel like, taken at its own merit, I don't think it's a very strong episode of Doctor Who. Certainly not as strong as Lux. Maybe a little stronger than Robot Revolution, because the spooky stuff kind of worked well, and I really did enjoy the performances, particularly Rose Ayling Ellis, who we've already talked about, who plays Alice in this. She's just amazing. Brilliant performance. But everyone's on fire. I mean, obviously, you know, Varada Sethu, and obviously Ncuti, amazing. But, like, yeah, I don't know, man. I thought it was all a bit flat, ultimately. I just don't think anything worked as well as it thought it did. It was like the episode was prouder of itself than it needed to be. And then I looked at the reaction online and was like, maybe I'm just wrong. Everyone seems to have loved this. People are talking about it being the best episode, you know, in years. People saying it's replaced Blink. Like, I heard all that shit this week, and I think all those people are fucking crazy. People were saying it's like
really,
it's the best episode since Russell came back on board. No, it's not. It's 5th at best, I think. 5th. And
take
best.
a shot, because I mention it all the time. But how the fuck is Dot and Bubble not the yardstick for for this era of the show?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, Dot and Bubble is still my favourite, and people like 73 yards. And like, here's the thing, right? I always talk about with Black Mirror. Oh, some episodes will tickle your fancy, and they'll be more for you, and some episodes will be more for other people. They're all executed quite well, but like what works for you best each season is going to just vary based on your own preferences and what kind of storytelling you gravitate to. More positive, negative, dark, gory, whatever that thing is. But I think here, this isn't an issue of the tone. I love this kind of episode of Doctor Who. This isn't just that this episode wasn't for me. I actually think this episode was actively not as well executed as it thinks it was, and I do think it's mostly pacing issues to the back end, but I think it primarily comes down to, for me, it doesn't really know what to do with the idea. It has this idea and it does not know what to do with it whatsoever, and it's like we figure out what it does and then we run away from it, and that is pretty much the episode. And the figuring out what it does can be does have moments of tension in it, and that last moment does have moments of horror in it, which is why I'm not saying it's a terrible episode. I'm saying it's an average episode or two. I just don't think it's executed very well at all. I feel like this script needed like 2 or 3 more drafts, like, before it was there. But hey, maybe that's just me. I don't know. Do you think do I sound crazy, or am I making sense to you?
No. You're making sense. I'm not sure where we are on the timer, so I didn't think we'd get to 16 minutes. I didn't think we'd
6.
get to me making 6 minutes. I thought the Doctor wasn't 100% sure where they were. How did he manage to choose outfits that exactly aligned with the outfits?
That bothered the shit out of me.
Like, what?
Yeah.
That didn't make any fucking sense to me.
No, it's like I get it, because it's a fun scene. Like, it's a fun, like, moment where they're like, let's put on the outfit, and we go out, and that's the outfit for the era and the place we are. And maybe there's like a special button on the TARDIS where you push like appropriate clothes for where we have landed, and the TARDIS figures it out. Maybe that's a thing, and we've just never had it explained, or I've forgotten that it's been explained. But it is weird they came out in the exact spacesuits.
Yeah.
And also, I think this episode also suffered, I think, from like the what's the Earth, what's humanity stuff, which I understand is setting up our plot for the season. But like, what happened to like the more subtle versions of this, Russell. Like so many.
Yeah,
we had the same scene like 3 times. Humanity. You've heard of humanity? No, don't know what that is. Okay. Humanity. You've heard of humans? The Earth? Oh, I don't know what that is. Okay. Why are we doing this scene multiple times? Like,
and also, Mrs. Flood has just become Susan Twist.
Yeah, she
like,
has.
like,
yeah, she has.
Like,
Which will be fine if she does
up.
turn out to be a Time Lord or a Pantheon God or whatever that she's going to be. Rani, probably. Rani, fuck me. Or someone the other day said River Song because flood. What happens when a river gets everywhere? It's a flood.
God.
That'd be bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care for that. Anyway. It's, I don't know, man. She's just in every episode now. The difference between her and Susan Twist is that Susan Twist didn't seem to know she was out of place. So she was just a version of her just existed in that time that had a life, and
also she's actively avoiding the Doctor as well. Like we saw her run away from him in the first episode and stuff. But,
I guess it's a bit different, but I don't know, man. I just think like we're laying it on heavy, but we're not expanding on the idea. All right, the Earth is gone. We get it. Like that's not an expansion of the idea. We're not learned anything new this episode. I don't think. Well, no, we haven't. I guess we've learned that it's been removed from history. I guess the characters have learned that, but we knew that since episode 1 because we saw that date and the Earth was gone and there was just debris. So I don't know. I just don't feel like we're learning anything new with each new tease of whatever the season arc thing is. So yeah, I don't want to sound like a negative Nancy or whatever. Like it wasn't a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination. It's nowhere near as flawed as 73 yards, whatever that episode was last year, which I really didn't care for and everyone absolutely loved. So, take my words.
Also, for me, there's a fairly big gulf between this and the Robot Revolution, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, I would. No, I think that's probably true too. I think we've had a really like low end episode of Doctor Who, which I had fun with, but I acknowledge is not a great episode. A masterpiece of Doctor Who, and then just something that was just like in the middle, like kind of functional, enjoyable, but nothing special. And that is how I really see this. Like, yeah.
What time are we at?
We got 2.5 minutes.
Any theorizing for how, given this, we can't jump around and land on the right time period, how they're having an adventure in modern day Earth with Ruby Sunday? Do we just think they're like a month out or something?
Yeah, they land like a few months before they left.
Have we definitely seen Bell in it, though?
That's a good question.
Was she in the next time?
That's a great question. I don't know if we have.
Because I'm wondering, is this episode even set within this chronologically?
Maybe not.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know, man. It's so frustrating because I feel like I've done nothing but like complain about the episode, and there were things that were good about it. I like that the soldier that doesn't like the Doctor. I liked his oh god, the being flung in the air thing. Was anyone scared or like? It's the dumbest way for people to die I've ever seen. Like it's just like I stood on a trampoline and now I'm dead. I guess. Like I don't know, man. I did not find that very scary or tension inducing.
I really liked the. I loved the decision for the Doctor to sign, though. I really loved that.
Yeah, and I really liked the moment when they figured out when they were figuring out the midnight thing, that the being behind it thing, and to stop this from happening, the main lady like sacrificed that other soldier guy who was behind it by making it switch around, like making her turn around. Like that was clever. Mm-hmm. But other than that, man, I don't know. Not for me. Not my favorite. I don't know. I feel bad because I just feel like I've moaned a lot for an episode I'm telling you was fine, but like it's because I feel like I'm reacting to the fact everyone else is talking about it like it was the God's gift to Doctor Who.
No, but also we've just had this discussion on the Nothing But Static we just recorded. When something is fine, it's way more interesting to critique the negatives than it is.
Yeah, that's true.
To praise the positives. So,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we got just under a minute left, I think. Oh my!
Okay, I'm going to ask the question. Left. Do you think it's deliberate that it feels like the episodes are very tonally similar to the last series?
No, I think that's a coincidence. I know you kind of do. I know you're being sold on this notion.
I just think it's just too similar for me personally to not think it's something, but I think it's probably not, and it's probably just that's a logical formula for the show to follow.
Yeah, and there are only 4 or 5 kinds of Doctor Who episodes. So yeah, anyway, 5 seconds for We love you all. Thank you all for listening. That's the end of the review. So that's the review done. I got a little ding 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 in my ear. Oh, you guys don't get that. Maybe I'll add a ding ding ding. Oh, it's still going though. That's not helpful. All right, okay. Thanks everyone for listening. Come back next week when we review. What's that next episode called? I don't even know.
I don't know either.
No.
Well done.
What is it, episode 3, 4? Where are we at? 4?
4.
Lucky Day. There you go. Lucky Day. And the 4th episode last year was 73 yards, I think. So...
Yeah, so I'm just seeing if there's there's not on the Wikipedia. There's not a synopsis. That's a shame. Oh, well.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out next week. But thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next week and we'll talk about that one. Hopefully, we'll be a little bit more positive because I feel like we're going to get some blowback on this one because I feel like everyone loved it.
Well,
that's fine.
Look, if we are following a similarity pattern to last year, based on our review of 73 yards, I think not.
Oh, Christ, yeah. Yeah. We'll see. Like I said, I didn't hate it. I just feel like comparatively to the positivity, I'm basically the episode's biggest hater because everyone else loved it so much. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening. We love you all. We'll see you in a week's time for reviewing Lucky Day. Bye.
Bye.